I will kick us off. So, hello everyone. My name is Abigail Fisher, and I am one of the folks that helps to host and facilitate our monthly BHA technology office hours. I am a civic designer by trade, which essentially just means that I help to solve problems by talking and being a good listener with folks. And this is definitely one of those times where we get to listen to providers like you who we're designing technology for. So these meetings, they're typically about updates to technology and data topics coming from the BHA. So we talk about everything from upcoming product launches to ways that you can get involved and help to shape the technology used by providers that interact with the BHA. We usually have a couple of topics to go through, and we call those our technology updates. So today we're going to talk a little bit about trainings that we have coming forward on our technology, a couple of updates on our DUI program, and then an update on bed tracking and care coordination. And then we spend usually the first 30 minutes going over those updates, and then we spend the next 30 minutes in community discussion, which is really just a place for people to come and ask questions. And then usually we have like a prompt, and this week's prompt is around design research and compensation. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Sorry, and I'm hearing just a little feedback from someone who's not muted. So if you're not muted and given a little feedback, just a note that you might want to check that out. Although I can't see who it's coming from, so that's totally okay. All right, so with that, we'll kick us off into our first section of this meeting, which is again on updates. And throughout the session today, feel free to put your questions in chat. And then we'll also have different times where we'll ask for open questions throughout the day. But chat is always great. And we'll go back and address those chats in case we're kind of like going through and presenting and not able to address them at the time. So we love the chat. We love coming off mute. However is accessible to you to participate today. All right, and so I'm going to hand it over, I think, to Amanda to go over this first update on technology trainings.
Awesome. Thanks, Abigail. I know we mentioned this a little bit in the last office hours regarding trainings. I did want to provide an update that many of you likely knew or worked with Jackie, and she actually retired from the BHA after working with us for 25 years. So that's exciting for her. And Jackie led a lot of the trainings that we had for CCAR, DACODs, and DRS. So for the time being, these live trainings have been temporarily put on hold, and we're in the process of creating shorter recorded videos so individuals can kind of learn on demand for these. We'll definitely have more updates to come in future office hours, but wanted to mention this again. If you do have any outstanding training questions or needs in terms of your providers, feel free to contact me, and you can use the BHA provider support inbox email to ask about those. So, all right, that's all I had for that one.
And then, so we've had the folks from the Behavioral Health Claims and Eligibility Project come and talk to us a couple of times. So there's an update on Peak Pro training. So it looks like we have a couple of sessions in April. And I've heard a rumor that there was some overfill in the last training session. So these would be those additional sessions that you would be able to sign up for. Looks like the registration site is going to be live after Friday. And we will continue to give sessions in case there is overflow of those as well. So I'll pause for a second before we move to our next topic. Any questions on training that folks want to bring forward either in chat or come to voice on? Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything in chat. People can definitely continue to ask, which department? Natasha, I'm not 100% sure about that. And I'm wondering, let me look and see who we have from our end on the phone. Is Justin on?
I am. Hello.
Hi, I'm wondering
Um,
maybe if you can tackle this one.
yeah, for the Peak Pro training, your organization should have a, I think it's called a designated organization admin, that handles that is officially registered with HICPUF, um, and will coordinate the trainings on for your organization. If you don't know who that organizational contact is, you can either email me at justin.man@state.co.us, or if you already know Aiden Barrett over on the training team over at HICPUF, you can contact him directly. But feel free to just email me. We'll start the process to make sure that we know who your organizational contact is that is coordinating trainings for your organization.
Thank you, Justin. And just so folks know, what we do is we capture the questions and responses that we get from every one of these meetings and we post them to the BHA website. So no need to take notes. We'll be taking notes and posting these answers and responses as well, just in case you were worried about that. All right, great question. Thank you, Natasha. Any other questions about this or other trainings? And I'll go back to that last slide just in case people have questions on this one. Yes, and Justin just put his email in chat as well. So thank you, Justin. All right, fabulous. So I'm going to hand it back over to Amanda to just take us through a couple little updates on our DUI program and its intersections with BHA technology.
Awesome, thanks. So I don't know how many providers here might be providing services to individuals that have gotten a DUI or DWAI, but wanted to mention this here. This is just mostly a reminder that providers must provide clients with a validated DUI or DWAI referral summary form, either in person, by mail, or email within 10 business days of discharge from the program. We have had a number of individuals reaching out to us to get this form, which is a-okay, but we would ideally like for the provider to be the first point of contact for clients to get that form. If a client does need to request the DRS record from us, we do have an updated consent form, which is found on our website. And this is really important to you to make sure that everybody has this updated form, because the old forms have Jackie's email. And like I mentioned before, Jackie is no longer, she is retired. So just want to make sure that everybody is using the new updated consent forms. And then we have been directing individuals to, for individuals that have questions specifically about DUI services, there is a DUI service specific email that mostly clients can use if they have questions. Obviously, providers can use it too, but I know it can get confusing with having multiple emails. So totally understand if the providers, if you all just want to stick to the provider support inbox email as well. And then we are requesting that DRS requests do go specifically to the provider support inbox email. So happy to answer any questions about this. Feel free to drop it in the chat. And then I did have one other announcement about DUI. So recently the DUI services web pages have been updated on our website. So this is just a screenshot. We added DUI services into the top header of the website. So it's much, much easier to find now. And both of the pages, or the content has been split up into two separate pages. So one for individuals that have gotten a DUI or DWAI, and then another one for DUI service providers. There is going to be an email going out later today to DUI service providers specifically, kind of mentioning this change just for awareness. And then we're also going to be in that email providing a feedback form so we can get kind of thoughts and opinions about the layout of this change on the website and any changes that we can make. So yeah, super excited about that. So that's all I had, Abigail.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Any questions from the chat or coming to voice on DUI changes that we've just covered?
Hi, Abigail. This is Carl Lujan down in Pueblo Health Solutions. You said something about a consent form that's on the website or
Yeah,
TMS with because I'm looking at it now with the new email.
I'm wondering, Amanda or Bianca or someone, if folks could drop in those links to those pages on chat, and I think
Yes,
it'd be
Thank
I'll do
awesome.
you.
that.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Great question. And I said this in chat, but I'll go to voice. We'll also be sharing these slides and all of these great links that we have today after the fact. And if you're here, it means that you're on our BHA technology newsletter. So you get kinds of updates like that, which is awesome. Great question. Any other questions on anything related to these DUI program updates? Alrighty, we'll keep it moving then. All right, so I am here to take this next section, and maybe we can just do um, if folks know how to do this, if you want to put a thumbs up if you've heard of bed tracking or care coordination technology projects at the BHA. So who's heard of the BHA putting together technology on bed tracking or care coordination before? I'd love to just get a audience poll. We'll seeing about like 10 people saying they have, 12. Okay, so a good number of folks that have heard about this before. So if you go back and look at past office hours, we've been talking about this for quite a while. So this is a project that we've been working on in my entire tenure since I've been at the BHA, which is now just over a year. So we are working with a technology platform called Demagi ComCare, and we have been updating and creating and experimenting with different features and functionalities within that tool around BHA's legislative mandate to track bed availability for inpatient and residential providers. And so what I wanted to update this group on today is that, and some of the folks who participated are on this call. So if you are, extra special hello from me and thank you. We recently ran a 7-day pilot with providers that are currently updating their bed availability in a tool called EM Resource. And so that pilot ran for 7 days. And what we did is we tested out that new technology with those providers who updated their bed availability once a day for those 7 days. We did this because we are preparing for a summer launch of a new bed tracking tool within that Demagi ComCare system. And this pilot was what we needed to get the sort of final user feedback and usability scores for this technology before we go live. Although I think folks have maybe heard me talk about this before, we are always testing and improving technologies. So even after launch, folks will still have the ability to comment and improve on these technologies with us. So what's next is that probably at next month's office hours, we're going to share the findings from that pilot and provide more information on what that new tool launch will look like in terms of timelines. And I have a couple of video demos to share with you all today, which is exciting. So this first video demo, and I think these slides are actually backwards, because the first thing I would want to share is what does EM Resource look like today? So maybe by another show of hands, could I see who on this call uses or has heard of EM Resource today? Seeing like 5 hands, 6 hands. Awesome. So no worries if you haven't heard about it. So EM Resource is a tool that is currently used by lots of different agencies in the state of Colorado, but I'll talk about the way that the BHA uses EM Resource today. And I'll hit play in just a second. But this tool is essentially where we have our inpatient and residential providers inputting their bed availability on a day-to-day basis. And we've done a bunch of research, and if folks have attended office hours, you've known that we've talked to, I think, over 500 providers over the course of the year in different design methodologies in order to get feedback on both this tool and our proposed new tool. And so the thing I wanted to show you today is that, if we're updating bed availability in EM resource, it essentially looks like a giant spreadsheet, right? Where you're going across. And the thing I wanted to highlight here is that all of the good information on the types of beds are kind of hidden in these comment cells. So it makes it really difficult for providers who are doing care coordination tasks to really understand what is the availability of a particular organization at a given time. And so I wanted to show how EM resource looks like. And now I'm going to show you where we've gotten to in ComCare, which is our new tool, which still collects bed availability, but we're doing it in a way that is more usable to folks and providers that are engaging in care coordination. So this screen here is showing you what a unit level information looks like, and then how a provider would categorize their beds. And then all of that information can be shown and seen on this directory, which is a provider-specific directory with the types of information that you would need to do care coordination. So that's kind of the demo there. And I think the last thing you'll see here is folks are able to click into that view more information box and then see even more information about that provider. Again, all tailored to that idea of information that providers would need to know to engage in care coordination. So we're really excited to be able to share those demos, and hopefully it's kind of self-explanatory about the differences between those two tools and how this ComCare and Demagi tool is going to be easier to use and better suited for those types of care coordination tasks that we've really heard are pivotal from our providers. So I'm just going to stop there and see if anybody has any questions around that. I know I went through those demos really fast, so maybe I'll hit this play again on this demo just so folks can see it again. And of course, you'll have the ability to play this and slow it down on your own when we send out these slides. So in chat or going to voice, would love to hear any questions from folks. I also just want to say this for the recording. If you happened to catch a glimpse of your facility and the information is wrong, that's because we're using to test the system, we're using outdated data from our ladder system. But before going live, we are going to do a validation exercise with all of the facilities to make sure that your information is displaying correctly. So just that caveat there, which is always a fun caveat when you're dealing with in production and test piece of technology. Got some questions in chat. Leanna, how are agencies being alerted to establish these systems? I'm wondering, Leanna, if you could give me more, what do you mean by establish these systems? And if you could also define agency, that might be helpful for me. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything, so we might have lost Leanna. So maybe I'll go to the next one. Are there plans to allow us to automate the bed status updates, possibly using web service APIs? That's a great question, Chuck. So we're actually doing a more comprehensive API EHR investigation. We know that that is something that providers are really interested in. So there's not plans for that upon the launch of this tool this summer, but that's maybe more of like a long lead improvement that we're investigating. But that's a great question. Thank you. And then Natasha, you had not a silly question at all, but are details being sorted by region, or can you pivot the data so you can pull specific areas? That's a great question, Natasha. So we do have a map that maybe I can fast forward in this to show you here. So you will be able to see in general where the facility is on a map, but I do think it's a wonderful idea that maybe we could overlay Ray or Basso regions onto this map, because I know that that's an important part of the care coordination process. So you just gave me a wonderful idea. Thank you so much. So Leanna, I think what you're talking about is the transition from Juvari to this system. So Juvari and EM Resource will continue to be a resource and a technology that other state agencies employ. And I think we're still talking with those state agencies about how that will look for the BHA. The current bed tracking as part of their safety net contracting. I would love to connect you with maybe some of our licensing team, Leanna, for a deeper conversation around that, because those are things we can talk to, but maybe just a little bit longer than I'm able to engage in a discussion today during our call. Fabulous. That sounds great. Thank you, Leanna. These are fabulous questions. Any other questions before we move on to our discussion portion of the day? Fabulous. And again, the last thing I'll say is we had, I think, 9 or 10 organizations participate in the 7-day pilot. And thank you, if you were one of those, again, thank you so much. Feedback that was provided in that pilot, in addition to the types of feedback that we get on calls like this today, are really the things that help to make our technology successful. So we really appreciate your time. We would not be able to do this without you. All right. Then I think that brings us to our community discussion, which means that I will stop sharing my screen and open it up to the floor. The first thing I want to do and ask is ask the group, are there any questions that you have for the BHA technology team that you'd like to discuss today? We'll have to see if we have the right folks on the call, but even if we don't, we'll be able to go and hunt that answer down for you. So general Q&A and community discussion, anything that you would like to bring up to BHA technology folks today. So Leanna, I don't know what you mean by EHR work groups. We are talking and reconfiguring our plan for community and stakeholder engagement around administrative burden as a whole, which does include CCAR, DACODs, as well as other data reporting requirements. Is that what you're referencing? Okay, great. So yes, so that's a great question. So administrative burden, and this is maybe someone can post that latest report in the chat for me as well, is another area of inquiry that the BHA technology team has been investigating. And folks might remember times where I've come back and talked to this team about research being done to improve the data model for reporting requirements like CCAR and DACODs. That work is very much still in progress. We ended up needing a couple of months just to regroup and to really digest the over, I think, 50 amazing and lengthy responses that we got on that piece of research. So we'll be following up with this group about plans for re-engaging the provider community and beyond on that. Thanks for bringing that up, Leanna. Fabulous question. What else do we have? Any yeah, Leanna, that's a great point. So actually the EHR like in the API integration would be a separate but related conversation. So maybe we can follow up with you to talk about those different work groups that we have going around these different topics. I know they're somewhat interrelated, but the EHR and API conversations are a little bit distinct from that administrative burden work group. Great questions. Anyone else? Otherwise, I can kind of, I'll add this question as fodder to this group in case we want to develop a conversation around it. But one of the things, you know, I talk a lot about, and we talk a lot about at these meetings, are the different engagement opportunities that we have for providers to come and help us co-create these technologies. And one of the things that we've been thinking about a lot is the idea of compensation for that work. So we're in the process of developing policies around that for the different types of stakeholders that we bring into our technology co-design processes. So I just wanted to put a general question to this group, like, what are ways that you would like to be compensated for design research? So sometimes we talk about money or gift cards, but there's also things like skills exchanges and different ways that we could make it feel equitable. And ultimately what our goal is that we don't want to be taking from you without also giving you something in return. So we want it to feel like a reciprocal relationship and environment when we do come into co-creation together. So just curious, how would you like to be compensated? Would you like to be compensated? Opening the floor to everybody.
Hey, this is James McLaughlin. I'm on Erin Gavin's capstone in her office. I think the first thing that I would say is that, I mean, the main compensation is just an opportunity to have to be involved in the process and to help be the change that we all want to see. I think that's the first one. But beyond that, I think an opportunity to collaborate. So, you know, we kind of all live in a world now where we do most of our stuff on a 12-inch or 25-inch screen or whatever. You know, one of the things that I would find extremely valuable and something that would interest me in being, you know, involved in this is if there were opportunities to get together and collaborate in person, like brainstorming sessions and stuff, and then pie in the sky, you know, do them in different areas, and then cover lodging and for the opportunity to do that. So create an opportunity and then create the lodging space and I think that would be a really good incentive, honestly.
Oh my gosh, so many good ideas there. I love that. Fabulous. Thank you. Does that bring anything up for anyone else? Oh, agree or disagree. We don't all have to agree, but I loved those thoughts. Seeing some hearts, seeing some likes. Aaron, just so you see those. Brian, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I agree with that 100%. I've been in the business for quite a while and formerly was in IT, and really the number of things that we can do just simply keeping track of and coordinating and collaborating between all the various services and facilities. There's just so much opportunity to gain from integrating and collaborating what we already have, and just to be able to have some good tools that come out of that are useful to as many people as possible. That's the only incentive I need. I live in the Denver area, so the travel and lodging is not an issue for me. But you know, the reward to have that come back to the community and to the providers and the clients is just that's the big thing for me.
Y'all are too sweet. I love it. But like seriously, we want to make it equitable too. So Yeah, and just in case this brings anything up for anyone, like some of the rule of thumb that we've been thinking around, just like brainstorming, and this is pulled from best practices from other civic technologists as well, is like, balancing the time commitment with, appropriate compensation. So, if it's something like a quick survey, maybe not appropriate, but to go off of Aaron's point, if it's something where there's travel involved or like multiple hours, we're just trying to think and be creative to make sure that it feels good around the community that we're really building together around behavioral health and technology at the state. So just wanted to add that in case that jarred anything for anyone. And I guess another question, just so we're talking about, design and design research, like what are ways that people really like to be involved? And maybe we can hear from some folks that participated in the pilot. Do people like longer term, more collaborative and conversational opportunities? Or do people like more surveys, things that they can do kind of quickly and alone, or some combination of those things? I'm curious about different ways that y'all would like to get involved with the co-creation of these technologies.
This is James again. One of the things I'll say that I've noticed that surveys are great. They help give direction, but they definitely, as you guys probably know more than most, surveys have a real short side associated with them in that, you know, I'm thinking about things one dimensionally, but when I get together in a collaborative conversation, people will actually bring up other things that I hadn't thought of. And that spurs another thing that neither one of us would have thought of on our own. And it seems to me that gives you a 4-dimensional or 5-dimensional approach to solution. And it helps problem solve before, because how often have we, anybody who implements new things has experienced this before, where you plan, and you think you've covered every single, possible variable. And then the day you go live, there's 9 things you didn't think about. And when you have 3 or 4 opportunities to actually get together and talk about it ahead of time, you can work through a bunch of those. And so that's, from my opinion, I like involving a lot more people and having a discussion, because I'm not the smartest person in the room almost every single time. But I might say something or ask a question where the smartest person in the room will actually be able to see something I wouldn't.
I love that as also someone who is often not and does not like to be the smartest person in the room, because how do you don't learn that way. I'm just going to read some items from the chat because I think that this is really bolstering what folks have been coming off voice. Brian says, collaborative work groups, Natasha +1s, collaborative, maybe a hybrid of the options you've mentioned. Leanna also says like collaborative, having that opportunity to learn from each other. I love that. Okay. Any other comments or feedback? And it doesn't have to be about this topic. We can ping pong back and forth if folks have other questions about BHA related technology. Fabulous. All right. Well, so what we do typically when things get a little quiet is the BHA folks will stay on the phone. If folks want to go and get some 20 minutes back in their day, you're feel free to log off, but we'll stay on here and we'll keep the recording going. just in case folks have questions. And like I said before, we will be sending out the slides and all of the great discussion points and links from today via email, and that will also be posted on the BHA provider website. So we just thank you so much for coming, and we'll hang out here in case folks have questions. Otherwise, we will see you next month on that second Wednesday at 1, or the third Wednesday. I can't remember, but the links are all in there, so you'll be able to find out.
Abigail, this is James McLaughlin again. Hey, I had a question about the bed tracking. I missed the very beginning. Are we going to be able to send a client packet through the bed tracking app?
Fabulous question. Not for our initial launch, but that is our intentionality for future feature releases. Spot on.
And I just want to, I know we've talked about this before. I don't know if you remember, but Pulsera is an app that we're using down here with several partners.
Mhm.
And it's something that all the emergency rooms already use, and all of the transporting agencies, all the ambulances already use. That might be a great platform to and I'm not paid by them or sponsored by them in any way. I just, instead of trying to create something that maybe doesn't exist in a product already, I'm a big fan of rip off and duplicate. So if you haven't looked at that yet, I would highly recommend looking at that tool. It works really well for us down here. So, and it has a telehealth piece built into it too.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, so definitely we've heard from you and a couple of other folks on Pulsera. So that's something that we have investigated, and we'll let you know as we move forward about like what is the tech stack that we'll be, utilizing, because I think that folks kind of understand this more and more in this space. Typically, it's not like one solution to rule them all. It's sometimes a combination of different technologies. So thanks for bringing that up again, for sure.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. Thank you. And on that note, I'll get out of here. You guys have a great day. Thanks for everything you do.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for your comments and feedback. Fabulous. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can just hang out and talk about snow days. Thanks, Brandy. Yeah, thanks, Ron. We can make a note of that for that piece. Thanks for bringing that up. I will let that team know. All right, folks, I think we are going to turn off the call now. Thank you so much. All right, bye.